Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. It feels like it's been 2,000 years since we have recorded the podcast. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. But it feels good to be back. I'm super excited to be doing the podcast again. And today I am joined by Nicole Mitchell. Nicole Mitchell is the lead processor at Uncovering Greatness. And I realized, and I think something that Nicole brought to my attention is we say that a lot, and we realize that most people don't know what that means. So we need to take it back to basics. We're going to get back to the basics, and we're going to find out some things about what processing truly is and how it can actually really help you. So, Nicole, how are you doing? How goes it? How are things?
I'm good, thank you, Sonny. It is good to be with you and good to be with everybody that's listening to us.
So let's start at the beginning. I think that's a good place to start. Begin with the end in mind, as we will. What is processing? And let's start with your journey of, you've been a processor for how many years now?
Since 2017. So.
8, now going into 8 years, pretty much. How did you get to this position?
Yeah, so it's been a journey of many different things. So pretty much in 2017, I found myself in a space where I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything, actually. And I literally used to get up and take my girls to school and go home and go back to bed, which is not optimum. And I couldn't understand why I felt the way I did, because there was nothing majorly wrong in our lives. We had a fairly good marriage, Barry and myself. My girls were at private schools. I didn't have to work. There were so many things that were positives, but I couldn't understand why I felt the way I did. And for me, I'm super grateful for Blair Singer, because Blair Singer, one of the Rich Dad advisors, he was here doing a program with Barry, and his words were, "Barry, your wife needs help." And he put us in touch with an organization in the US. And from there, you do what's called a life and skills analysis. So basically, you plot out where you are in the zones. So you have green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. And I was absolutely terrified to do that test. I say test, it's multiple choice basically, yes, no, maybe. There's nothing hard about it, but the reason why I was terrified to do it was because I didn't want anyone to know how bad I truly felt about myself. And, what are people going to think? I have this husband who does personal development, he stands up on stages and changes people's lives, and yet I'm the wife at home and I don't want to do life. I couldn't understand it. And I knew that as soon as I did that test, somebody else would know. And I was terrified about other people finding out. And anyway, so did the life and skills analysis, and pretty much when I went through it, it was such a relief, because for the first time in my life, somebody could actually tell me what was actually happening and why I felt the way I felt, and the reasons that were creating all the emotions. And it was such a relief to know that I wasn't nuts, I wasn't crazy, I wasn't, I wasn't unique either, because so many people are experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
And, and this is where processing was so powerful for me, because for the first time in my life, somebody could explain the good, the bad, the ugly, how they all affected me and why I felt the way I did. And within 6 months, I found myself in the US doing the courses, because I wanted to bring it back to Africa. I wanted to bring processing back to Africa, because it made such a massive difference in my life. And I wanted to be able to do that for other people.
So what is processing?
So processing is basically one-on-one, where we help you unpack or find the truth as to where you are. Find the things that are actually causing you to behave the way you're behaving. Because most people know what they need to do. I mean, dieting is a perfect example, or food, health. Most people know they need to exercise and they need to eat healthy foods. And they can't bring themselves to do it. And there will be a reason why. And sometimes those reasons are not traumatic events. And I think this is the one thing that I loved about processing, is that a positive can be just as damaging as a negative. So a really positive experience can cause just as much havoc in your life as a really traumatic experience.
Okay.
And if you think about it, you had, in terms of, your life, think about a time where you had a really big win. Like you did something, whether it was at school, whether you won a trophy at school, or, whether it's in life, you closed a really big deal, and you go home, like let's say it's at school, you've won the trophy for, running, and you go home with the Victrix Ladorum, and somebody says to you, well, how did you manage to get that? Or, I didn't know you were a runner. Or there's this little flippant throwaway comment that could actually burst your balloon and make you go from this big to this small, and you can't understand what just happened. And that's where a positive is damaging, because, for some people, it's too much for them to handle. And this is why, in terms of lottery winners, they win the lottery, and then 3 years later, they've got even less money. Why? Because it was almost like a shock. It was too much for them to handle. So it was too much of a positive that's been dumped on them, and then slowly they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to use the money. They do know how to use it. They just don't know how to use it wisely or optimally to create more, because no one's ever taught them. And so suddenly 3 years later, I'm not sure exactly what the stat is, but it is that within 3 to 5 years they've lost everything. And so it's just understanding that positive is too overwhelming. It's too much for people to handle, so they crash and burn.
So if I'm understanding, and so that we can obviously get people to understand it even better, is, so if I take, let's just say, I think they could use weight loss and exercise and all of that as an example. So let's just say back in high school, I was at my fittest, I was eating well, I was doing all those things, and I had all these wins. And then there was a flippant comment that was made. And now when it comes to me, and let's just say 10 years, 15 years have passed, and I want to get fit again, I want to eat healthy again, but I just can't do it. I'm just kind of like, so much work, so much, I make a whole bunch of different excuses. But that's actually not the truth.
Well, excuses generally aren't the truth. They're excuses. But generally what we'll find is that there was a flippant throwaway comment, like, or an experience that happened. So say, this is quite common with young ladies, is they get super fit, they're looking great, they're exercising, they're eating healthy, and they have a boyfriend, and let's say their boyfriend's best friend passes a comment, something along the lines of, oh, well, if you break up with him, I'm always around. You look so good. And they mean it in a positive way, but it can be construed as negative. So then what happens is that young lady then decides, well, I don't ever want to be fit and healthy again, because maybe my husband's friend might make a pass at me. So every time you go to the fridge and you start wanting to get fit and eat healthy, it's like, oh, subconsciously, I don't want to do that, because what if? And we're not even aware of our subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
But that experience for us in that moment where, a best friend's friend makes a comment like that, you just go, oh, I can't tell anybody. And so what we do with processing is we help you find those seemingly insignificant things so that you can, and pretty much we work one-on-one, and sessions are generally an hour to 2 hours depending on, you know, what you're working through, and how well you are able to look at things. Or I say easy, but for some people it's challenging to start looking at some of those things, even though they were positives.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, you know, 15 years down the line, you think, gee whiz, you know, my boyfriend's best friend made a comment about how good I looked.
Yeah.
But subconsciously in that moment, it was unpleasant. Because your thought was, he's betraying his...
He shouldn't be doing that, yeah.
And he didn't mean it like that. It was just a, you know, wow, you're looking really good. But didn't know how to say it or articulate it. So, and that causes you to stop doing what you know you can do. And it's a subconscious thing, because it's like, well, I'm going to take it away from me before somebody else does, or I don't want those kind of comments or things like that. And so through processing, we help you find the truth. And the truth was, really, he actually wasn't that interested in dating you. He just wanted to make a comment, but he didn't know how to do it without being awkward. And of course, it came out awkward.
Just doing it for everybody. I mean, so even something like that, right, could be, would you say that could sort of compliment something that was, the intention was for it to be a compliment, but it came out weirdly. But could that be connected to something else around compliments, or like you look pretty or you didn't look, like subconscious?
Everybody's different, and everybody has different thoughts, different emotions, and so with processing, we just want to unpack the emotion that's keeping you stuck in it, because it's not the comment, it's the emotion. So in that moment, if you felt guilty that, oh, my best friend's boyfriend, oh, my boyfriend's best friend hit on me, and I feel guilty, that emotion of guilt is going to come up in every area in your life.
Yeah.
So it's not about the compliment, it's the emotion connected to it. So it's the guilt, is the next time somebody says something nice, oh, I feel guilty. Oh, I go to work and someone says, oh, you're looking really good today. I feel guilty for looking good. And because it's triggering the emotion, and that is, and that emotion, and this is where, for me, processing was so powerful, is because you're dealing with the emotion that's getting triggered. And that emotion, you know, everyone says, oh, you know, it's my private life, it's got nothing to do with my work life. But emotions don't know what is private and what is work life and what is business and what is relationships.
I wish they did. So this is one way you need them.
And it is, it's like, you know, you can, like we've had people come into our business community and say, there is no place for emotion in business.
Okay.
And it's like, well, there may not be a place for it, but guess what? It's going to happen, because emotions are people. And that's what makes people so challenging, is because emotions land up controlling people. Because that guilt of when someone says, oh, you did a great job, you're going, why are they complimenting me? What do they want? And so we start creating all these stories to justify our emotions, because, you know, they shouldn't be complimenting me. Who do they think they are? You know, or I'm going to distance myself from that person, and then we have all these effects of something that's not even, I say true, because it's not true in the moment.
Yeah.
It's, we've created all these stories around compliments or, you know, well-meaning things, and so it stops us from moving forward and having the things we actually really want in our life, and we don't even understand where they come from, because it is happening in our subconscious, and we've buried it, and yes, it was unpleasant in the moment, but actually, you know, I buried that, and it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't a huge thing, so of course it doesn't affect me now. But the thing is, the emotion's still there. You can bury the incident, but the emotion's still going to come up. And the problem is that emotion bubbles up when we least expect it, and then causes all sorts of other complications.
The way you explain that, like it now, it gives me a sort of a different thought, and I've been processing for
forever.
Side after like been processing for 20 years now, and I'm very sure that you have explained it to me, and we've talked about it a lot. And like, as I was listening to you speak, and you're talking about, it's more the emotion that people are stuck on, right? You're not really, the incident itself may not be, it's more than likely not the thing. It's the emotion that that incident made you feel, right? And something that you said, which is now probably one of the big buzzwords, is trigger. Like, you triggered me, and I'm triggered, and I'm... What's your take on triggers? What is a trigger, firstly? Rick?
Okay. So, a trigger, in the words of Alan C. Walter, is something that causes a past memory to play.
Mm-hmm. So it's like you push... So somebody says something, like the play button gets pushed, and it just, your mind just replays
it starts replaying that memory. And most people are not even aware of their triggers or the incidents that are playing, because they're happening on a subconscious level, but it's affecting our behavior now. So when someone comes and says, gee, you did so well, that compliment becomes the trigger for what do they want, or, you know, the guilt of, well, they shouldn't be complimenting me, like, why are they complimenting me, like, what's happening? And most of the time we are completely unaware of our triggers. So a really like big topic that people are completely unaware of is money, and most people are not even aware of their triggers around money. So for me, like, I used to go to the grocery store and not look at the amount that I was spending. And if I was shopping with, for example, Barry, I'd put all the items on the counter, and then I'd walk out. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But money and looking at numbers was a trigger for me. Spending money was a big trigger for me. And just the whole subject of money was a trigger. And I didn't realize how much of a trigger it was until I actually started looking at it and realizing how it affected every area of my life, because it affected my relationship. Because my husband was trying to understand, well, we have all this money, and I've said to you, go and buy yourself a dress, and you won't. And I have to take you. Like, I don't understand. Like, why won't you go and, or, you know, you're not spending any money, why not? You know, or, you know, we need something like new curtains in our house. And he'd go, you keep saying you're going to go get new curtains, you want new curtains, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, and for me, money is a huge thing. And so until I was able to look at it and become aware of it, I had no idea. So most people are completely unaware of their triggers. And then the other thing that I see today is people are becoming more aware of their triggers, and they'll just go, well, that's just who I am. That's the way I am.
100%.
And that's not the truth either, because that's not who you are. Your triggers and your emotions don't define you.
Yeah.
Or your job doesn't define you, or your... And this is where a lot of people are getting lost in labels. I mean, we have more labels today.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you just have to go into the health and sickness industry, and there's so many more labels to conditions.
You get sicker just looking at the labels.
Than there were before.
Yeah.
And it's become a solution. So people jump all over it because, oh, that's what I've got. I've got this, condition. Because you can explain why you are the way that you are, and it's easy because it's easy to label stuff.
Yeah.
But if you take away the label and you deal with the trigger, most of the time that stuff will go away. And that's one of the challenges with processing, is because it's not easy to look at that stuff. It's not easy to start unpacking who you are and your experiences in life, because in that moment when my boyfriend's best friend made a comment, it was painful because, well, what if he betrays his friend? Like, and that's where it's like, it's painful to look at. So it's much easier to give myself a label of whatever, bipolar, or who knows. I mean, there's so many. But it's much easier. And it's not to say that people are not bipolar, because there is conditions. Okay. But I genuinely believe that a lot of the labels that we have today are not actually genuine. Some of them are, please don't get me wrong, some of them are. But even with those ones that are, they can reduce the effects just by dealing with some of the incidents.
I mean, like you're saying, I think I feel like there's more bipolar people now than there were 5 years ago, right? In terms of those labels. And like you said, it's not to say that people aren't bipolar. There are people who are truly bipolar, who truly need help. That's guaranteed. But like you say, there's more, now there's this, you're just not dealing with the incidents, but you're not dealing with the emotions. So it's easier for me to know I'm bipolar and that's how I am, take it or leave it. And it's like, why, but how much more damaging is that to you than to other people when you like, this is who I am, take it or leave it?
Well, everybody's different.
Yeah.
So the effects are going to be different for everybody. So, it's not to, it's, I guess the question for me is, what is it that you want? And this is where I loved processing, because it's not about all the stuff and the fluff. It's about what is it that you want. Okay, so you want a better relationship. Okay, great. Let's unpack the things that are holding you back from having a better relationship. Okay, you want more money. Okay, let's unpack the things that are holding you back from having more money. Oh, you want better health. Okay, let's look at that. And that's, for me, was where processing is so important, is that we are helping you work towards something you want. So, and this is where, in terms of processing is not for everybody, because some people are happy with their label and they're happy with their life and they're happy with where things are and they don't want to change. But I can almost guarantee you that if you were to actually be genuinely honest with yourself, you probably find that you're not as happy as you think you are, and not as content as what you think you are, but you've come to terms with, I don't know how to shift it, so I'm just going to leave it. And it's just, I think that for me is the saddest part, is people are coming to agreement that it's okay to not be okay, when they can in actual fact make themselves better.
I mean, that would make communities a lot better, right? So if more people were better, not just being content with being content, or being okay with being okay, communities would probably thrive a bit more, because the world would thrive
more, because people are actually going after the things they want, not the things they don't want. Because I mean, most people, the average person today, if you actually ask them what they want, they can't tell you, but they can tell you what they don't want. I don't want this, and I don't want, I don't want to be broke.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want? Well, I don't know.
But I know I don't want to be broke. And it's like,
I'm tired of being broke.
And then you end up broke. So you just keep repeating.
But the reason is because they've put all their attention on being broke. without even realizing that that's what they're doing, because they're not able to shift into a more positive space. And for me, that's where, people often, clients will come to me and say, well, I don't know if it's worth me starting to work with you because I don't know what I want. And I go, well, that's part of the journey, is we find out, or we help you find what you want.
Yeah.
And, even if it's just, I want to, have a positive day. I want to have a day where I don't lose my shit. Or I want to have a day where I connect with my kids. Or, it doesn't have to be these huge intergalactic dreams of, $10,000 and this and that and what have you. It can be small little steps. I just want to be able to have a conversation with my husband without screaming and yelling. That's okay. Those little things are super, super important. And so through processing, we can help you get to that point. And, for me, my journey of processing continues all the time. Every week I still work with my mentor and still am learning and growing and getting better all the time. There's things that I've learned now that I had no idea 5-6 years ago. And those things are super, super important.
So as a process, this must be fascinating. Because for me, I'm sitting and I'm going, okay, so you're a processor. And I realize that, sometimes with people who master something, they don't stick with their mentor. I'm good at it, I'm fine, I don't need any help. I'm a processor, so I don't need to get processed. But as you've seen the world evolving and the world changing, how important is it for you to evolve and change as a processor?
So the most important thing, it's always important for me to keep growing myself, because I too have my own triggers. I have my own things, and as I get bigger and expand, there's unknowns that I run into, there's things that I don't know, there's things I've never done before, there's things I've never experienced before. And I use the example, if you get more money every year and you go on a holiday, and because you've got more money, you can go to a different location. Every time you go to a different location, there's unknowns. There's how do I get there? Do I have to fly there? Do I have to drive there? What's the road like? What's the country like? What's the currency? How does the money work? Do they have credit cards? And every time you go somewhere new, there's unknowns. There's things you don't know. What's the food going to be like? What's the service going to be like? What are the beds going to be like? What are the pillows going to be like? All those kind of things. So there's always unknowns. So for me, when I'm working with people, and as I get bigger and I'm able to deal with more, there's always going to be an unknown. And I don't know what that is, and it might be my unknown or it may be theirs. So it is critical for me to keep building myself and keep growing myself, keep getting processed, keep processing, but also to keep learning. So as I'm, getting more information, I'm applying it, which is how we get knowledge, is using the information. So I'm taking action, and then I've got to go get more knowledge so that I can take better action. And so it's critical for me to keep doing that, because like I say, I have my own triggers, I have my own unknowns. And as I grow and expand, I've got my own stuff I have to deal with, and that comes up. And so I don't want my stuff overriding a client's case. I don't want it to affect them. Because, exactly. Won't have great clients. And so for me, that's also so important, is I want my clients to have a great experience.
Yeah.
And a great experience does not mean that it's, oh wow, so amazing. A great experience is you start winning in life. And for me, that's so important, is I want my clients to win at the things that they do in life, not to, it's great if they have a good processing session and they feel good after the processing session. But what's more important is they actually run out all the stuff, the emotions, so that they can start winning in life.
Yeah, just just to go back, like you're talking about, like processing is helping you find, when you can help, I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, but it's helping you find what you want.
Correct.
And I remember, probably for the longest time, I've been processing how I wanted more money. Guys, I wanted to earn more, and I think I remember I put a number on it, and I was actually like, 50,000, this is what I want to earn monthly. And I kept processing, but I never getting to the 50,000. But then I started to realize, that's actually not what I want. It was one of those where it's like, it's a nice to have, but actually I don't want that. I just want to have, firstly, a better relationship with myself and where I'm at and what I'm trying to achieve. But so for example, like let's just say somebody comes to you and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to make R1 million in the next 2 months, 3 months, whatever the case may be. You're not going to be like, oh, that's stupid. You're not going to do that, right? You're going to try and you're going to help them.
Well, so it is to uncover what it is that's stopping them or what it is that they actually want. So for me, it is around helping people unpack what it is that they truly want and what's stopping them. So, you know, if someone comes to me and they say, I want to earn R1 million in the next 3 months, well, that's great. But there's a baseline. So what does that look like? And you know, what are you earning now? Have you ever earned R1 million before? And so there's a whole lot of different ways to unpack that and help the person find out if that is truly what they want, or if, you know, it is possible. And, you know, it's role educating people around money so that they can have more, be more, and do more. Because at the end of the day, often, for some people, it is about the number. Because they're very clear on 50,000 Rand is going to give me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's just a pie in the sky. 50,000 Rand that would be a nice to have, but they actually have no concept of what they're going to do with the money.
Yeah.
So through processing, we can help them unpack that. You know, and I think processing it's not easy. You know, I mean, I had a client that came in and, I mean, pretty much for 2 hours, all they did was whinge, whine, and complain, and their life was, I suppose, not in a great space, and they were trying to buy a car, and everything they did around the car went wrong, and they couldn't, you know, the financing kept falling through, this kept happening, and they had this session, and then I mean, they left, and I'm like, did I even do anything? Because it was so hard for them. But they came back the next week, and in their life, they were winning, and suddenly they were, the dealership had phoned them to say the financing had been approved on their car.
Sure.
This guy bought a car for his girlfriend, and he dumped her, and then he returned the car, and so we've got this brand new car that, you know, is, you know, a third of the price, and we've got this and that, and suddenly everything in this person's life started to line up. Okay, and that's where I say one of the challenges with processing is people think the processing session has to be, oh, it's so nice and, you know, cushy and everything's wonderful. No, often the biggest results people will get is when they have a very uncomfortable session and they scream and yell, and I say scream and yell, but deal with some of the emotions. They get angry, they get upset, they, you know, offload a whole bunch of stuff, and often those are the best sessions in that the client starts winning in life, whereas often the sessions where everything's amazing and it's wonderful, and this is where it's so challenging as a processor is, you know, we want you to win. We want you to succeed in life, not in the processing session. And people will come and say, oh, you know, you didn't make me feel great. Well, no, I'm not here to make you feel great. Unfortunately, and fortunately.
A lot of chocolate does not make you feel great.
And, but and when people understand that sometimes dealing with the emotion is not pretty. It doesn't feel nice, but yet people start winning in life, and that's really what it's about, and then they start working towards their wants. Just like the client suddenly, he was trying to get a car and then suddenly it all started happening. And like nothing changed in their life to make the finances get approved. But they dealt with a whole bunch of emotion, and so it was able to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, like I think about the change that I've had in the processing sessions we've been doing this year, so 2024. I kind of really, I feel like I'm dealing more with real things that are happening in my life, but real things that are going to help me in whatever period of time that I want to do something in. Right, so like I remember the session that we had just before UGE Namibia, which allowed me to get to UGE Namibia and go, okay, cool, so I say that I want to play a bigger game. This is what I'm saying. Am I going to do it? Right, so the opportunity is presented to you. You can basically be second in command running the room. Are you going to take it or aren't you going to take it? And I was like, oh, okay. And I feel like before, when I wasn't processing my sort of day to day, I was like exactly like you're saying, I would leave sessions and I'd be like, why don't I feel better? I should feel good. But I wasn't processing this, I feel at least, I wasn't processing the stuff that was helping me on a daily basis to help me in my life to win. And it's, like you said, it's not always the deep things that you need to process. Yes, those things do need to be processed. But would you say that it's more, not important, but which is better? It's not even better.
Okay, so every client is unique.
Yes.
Every client is different, and every client needs a different way in order to be processed.
Ooh.
And so, you know, the way you are processed and the way you like to process is very different to the people around you. So, for example, you know, in terms of myself and Barry, for example, we both process very differently. And we look at things differently and we open things up very differently. And some people can go zoop straight to the issue and they just drop straight in, they unpack it and they pull themselves out. And other people have to pull back layers and layers. And that's what makes processing unique, is each person we work with in the way that you need to be worked with. Not the way I want to work with you. It's how you need to be worked with. And we can only, and that's where, you know, often people will say, well, how many sessions do I need? Well, I won't know that until I start working with you, because, you know, we need to decide if you're somebody who likes to peel off layers, or if you're somebody that can just like basically take a knife, pull out the stuff. And so everybody's different, and that's where, for me, processing so unique, is because it's working one-on-one with each person in a way that's going to help you get what you want. And some people need to work on the positive, and some people need to clean up the negative.
Yeah.
But it's very much, where is your attention stuck? Or what are you avoiding? So, you know, in terms of if, you know, someone comes in and they're always talking about money and how money's always a problem, but they never process it. They're avoiding it. That's an example of someone who avoids something. They never ever want to process it, and they just avoid it. Versus somebody who comes in and money, and then they process, you know, that's all they want to process is money. So it's just understanding that where your attention is stuck and areas you're avoiding are the areas that you actually need to work on.
Yes, no, 100%. And I think that's the really cool thing about processing, is like, it's not a one size fits all, right? So somebody's not going to come into a session and you're going to run the same process or help them in the same way that you helped your previous client. Because like you say, every single person is different, every single person's journey is different. And yeah, so honestly, I'm looking forward to kind of really unpacking processing a bit more, because it's my opinion. I think it's an incredibly vital tool, and it's being somebody who's done therapy before, the vast difference between the two is insane. You know, I would probably say you should leave your therapist and call Nicole. That's just my opinion. My opinion. You don't have to do it, but I strongly suggest that you do it. Nicole, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, it's just, I think that the big thing is processing is very misunderstood. It's a series of processes to help you get what you want. And a lot of people don't understand that, and it's something that we will discuss a lot of is mental health awareness and things like that. But processing is part of that. It's around how do you shift your mental, emotional state. And by doing that, you'll start to shift some of the other states like your physical, etc. So it is important to just be aware that processing is cleaning up all those mental issues that people are talking about but not actually dealing with.
Yeah, really nice. Pat that one even more.
Mental health. Oh, I'm excited for that. One's going to be really cool. So yes, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining us on a brand new episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. If you guys are interested in buying any of our products, merch, cups, bottles, t-shirts, you guys can grab that at uncoveringgreatness.com. And if you want to book for any of our events, we've got Circle of Influence coming up this Thursday. You can also book for that. Your first time is free. We also have another sales explosion coming up in November. We will let you guys know the dates for that. But other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you are. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. One other episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. It has been awesome. Thank you very much, Nicole, for your time.
Thank you, Sully. And thank you guys for watching.
See you soon.
Bye.